and welcome to the Key Club podcast. My name is Michelle Kearns, and this week's guest is Nick James, founder of Expert Empires and a leading business strategist for coaches, consultants, and entrepreneurs who want to scale smart. In this episode, we revisit Nick's standout keynotes from the Property and Entrepreneur Summit, where he shared the 3 keys to building structure in your business. We dive deeper into these and how these principles apply whether you're just getting started in property or you're already managing a growing portfolio. In this episode, Nick shares why chaos and overwhelm come from a lack of business structure and how you can fix it. He looks at the 4 phases of business growth and which strategies to use at each stage. He shares a personal story of how he attended a Tony Robbins event from age 12 and how that has shaped his obsession with events and business mastery. Also, he shares one unexpected but powerful action that you can take today to get closer to your goals. So stay on until the end to find out what that is. Nick has built multiple 7-figure businesses. He's run events with over 500 attendees and has had household names and icons like Gary Vaynerchuk, Sugar, Marie Forleo on his stages. His mission is to help entrepreneurs move from information to implementation without skipping the steps that actually build a sustainable business. He's also very kindly shared one of his implementation tools that you can download today by going to expertempires.com/Key Club. Enjoy today's episode and look out for the keys to success. Hi Nick, great to have you on with us today. How's your day going?
So I'm in the home office, quite relaxed, quite chilled. So good so far. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it's great. Well, it's good to have you in a relaxed state for the podcast. We have a nice chat today. First of all, the first time we met in person was the Property and Entrepreneur Summit earlier this year, where, of course, you were our keynote speaker on stage. And the event was for property investors and entrepreneurs. And it was a real fresh mix of people that you were speaking to who are investing in property or want to get into property, but they have that entrepreneurial mindset and they're wanting to connect with people. So you did a fantastic piece on stage to everyone, and it was around your keys to success. And I'd like to dive into that today. It'd be great to pull out some of your background as well. But do you want to start there with the keys to success? Because people who are wanting to get started, let's say, or they're stuck, there must be something missing, right? So what's that missing ingredient for you?
Yeah, great question. And I think, first of all, so we met when I spoke at the Property and Entrepreneur Summit. I don't know, maybe some of the listeners here are property investors. Maybe some of them have got businesses in different sectors. Maybe both. Maybe you're like me and I've got my core business and my core businesses, which are predominantly training and events and coaching businesses. And then I've also got a property investment business as well. So maybe people are a bit like me. The way I see property investing or property businesses, it's just like any other business. You still need to do marketing in some way, shape or form. You still need to make sales, close deals. You still need to look after your customers, tenants, investors, whoever it might be. You still need to manage the finances. If you're going to grow and scale, you still need to recruit and hire and train and lead a team. So the principles that are relevant for a property business are the same as the principles that are in my training business or an e-commerce business or a retailer or any of those businesses. Ultimately, the fundamentals are the same. And what I always talk about and what I shared at the Property Entrepreneur Summit is that most business owners, most entrepreneurs, irrespective of sector, struggle because they've got a lack of structure in their business. And what that means is the absence of structure means that they're probably struggling with overwhelm. They've got 101 ideas at any given time on what they could do. Maybe they listen to a lot of podcasts, which I'm not saying is a bad thing. You get loads of great ideas. The problem is then you get overwhelmed trying to do them all at once. Or, if you're anything like me, when I go out for a run, I'll normally listen to an audiobook or a podcast, or maybe you take courses or you're part of masterminds or you have mentors or coaches. I do all of those things. But what enables me to effectively implement what I learn in all of those different arenas is having a structure in my business. So what I spoke about at the summit where we met Michelle was the 3 keys to creating structure in your business. So real brief. The first one is vision. So have a clear vision of where you want to go. what success looks like long term. The second one is strategy. How are you going to get there? It's all well and good having a dream, a goal, a vision, but how? How are you going to get there? That's the strategy piece. And then thirdly, tactics. Like, what are the specific actions or tasks that need to be completed by you or by your team day in, day out, week in, week out, in order to deliver the results, the outcomes that you want. So that's a 30, 60-second overview of the structure that I teach people to have in their business. But what most people have is the opposite. They have chaos, they have confusion, they have overwhelm, they're winging it. They'll sit down on a Monday morning at their desk or their place of work and make a list of all the to-dos for that week, and then get really busy throughout the week, tick all the things off the to-do list. And at the end of the week, they feel like they've succeeded because they ticked everything off. And then they repeat the process week after week, month after month, year after year, only to find sometimes years later that they've been really busy, but they've not made any progress. And that's because there wasn't the structure in place to set vision first, then work out what's the strategy, how do I get there, and then thirdly, what are the tasks, what are the actions that I need to complete. So that structure just enables us to reduce the chaos, the confusion, the overwhelm, and create a sense of clarity, certainty, confidence, stability in the business.
Love it. So what you do day to day is you help experts and business owners to achieve 6 to 7 figure revenues. And you must have, over the years, seen so many people come through at varying levels of having, just such a wide range of resources. So how do you help so many people who are in such different positions?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, as I already said, I think the principles of business are the same, irrespective of sector or industry. I think the second thing is, and I haven't shared this with you, Michelle, previously or at the summit, I feel like there are different approaches that are relevant depending on what stage of business you're in. So I talk about 4 stages of business. So phase 1 is like you're a startup. You're just trying to prove concept. You're just trying to get attention, get clients, get some customers, get some money coming in. Phase 2 is you've already got the foundations in place and now you're looking to build upon those foundations, get the message out to more people. Phase 3 is now you really want to grow the thing and you might need to start utilising paid advertising. You might need to start hiring a full-time team. And then phase 4 is you're looking to scale. And I talk about different kind of annual revenue milestones as a guide as to which phase you're in. So what I always say is phase 1 is your revenues, anything up to 100,000 a year. Phase 2, you're a 6-figure business. You're generating hundreds of thousands of pounds a year. Phase 3, you're a 7-figure business. You're generating millions of pounds a year. Phase 4, you're an 8-figure business. You're making 10 million plus. And there are different approaches, different priorities, depending on what phase of growth you're in. So in answer to your question, like how do we help people that have got such wide ranging businesses? We actually customize and tailor the training. So if you're a startup, I'm going to give you, here's what you should focus on as a startup. If you're already a £1 million plus business, don't listen to what I'm about to say. If you're a £1 million plus business, this is the strategy or these are the priorities for you. And if you're a startup, ignore what I'm about to say. And what we actually do is we, where possible, put people in different training environments, depending on what phase of growth they're in. So that you're not in a position where if you're a 7-figure business, you're not learning startup strategies. If you're a startup, you're not learning 7-figure business strategies. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does. And I'm thinking, obviously, the people who will be listening today, they've got a property business of sorts, but a lot of people, and it's, I think, a mistake a lot of people make at the beginning stages is they get into property with the idea of getting out of the day job. They want the time freedom, they want the money to be financially free, but they don't treat it as a business from day one. And partly because they just don't know what they need to do. Right, they don't know what systems, they don't know what structure they need to put into place. They don't have a team, so they're the one wearing all of these hats and doing everything themselves. So for people who are starting out, are the things that they can learn from people who've got the big businesses with the big revenues, or do you think that the people who are starting out need a unique set of support and resources and skills?
Yeah, fair question. So if we apply what I've just shared to property business specifically, I would not advise somebody that's just left their job to start on their property investment journey to go and do like a big development project. Because for me, it's a high risk and complex project. So you probably want some experience under your belt before that. So like, again, I'm not a property educator, even though I do have a property business, I'm not in that space. But for me, if you're starting out and you're trying to get your first deal under your belt, maybe you're still employed and you're doing this as a bit of a side hustle, I'm looking at like vanilla buy to let. Like, can you just get a single buy to let to start with and cut your teeth on that? Work out how do we find a vendor? How do we structure the deal? And of course, there are places that you can learn how to do this. And I recommend and endorse many of them. I'm friends with many people that are in the property education kind of sector. So, start off with simple basic strategies, and then maybe, in time you go into HMOs. Maybe in time you'll go into holiday lets. Maybe in time you might go into commercial, or you might go into big developments. But in the same way that I said there's 4 phases of growing a business in any sector, for me there are phases of becoming a property investor. My philosophy in business in general is don't try and jump and skip steps. Like, don't start a business and try and be a 10 million a year business on day one. By the way, there are always going to be exceptions to the rule, but for every one that went from 0 to 10 million super fast, there's probably 100,000 that failed. Whereas my philosophy is, if you follow like a proven path and start off, what I always say is think big, start small. So, it's all well and good. Like, I'm absolutely on board with anyone that's got a huge vision. They want to build a huge portfolio, be financially free, retire, all of that stuff. I'm with you. I'm massively supportive of it. But trying to go from 0, you have no properties whatsoever, to you're financially free, retired within 6 months is crazy. Can it be done? Maybe, but you would need a lot of money and you need to take a lot of risks to get there that quick. Whereas my view is, in business, whether you're invested in property or just any other type of business, think big, start small, and then follow a system, a process. And, like I said, as an example, start with buy to let, then maybe do a few of those, then maybe do HMO, then maybe do holiday lets, and maybe you get to do a commercial project, and maybe you get to do a big development, like over time, rather than trying to run before you can walk.
Completely agree. I like the idea of the phases and the different levels of businesses. What about obviously you're in a quite unique position where you have been able to teach and help lots of people who are coming up through the ranks, so to speak. And then you also have been in that position where you get to interview and work with and partner with people who are more experienced than you and are, Gary Vee, Lord Sugar, all of these people. And through your podcast, you've been able to interview lots of people who have different levels of success. So what I'm curious about is any key habits that you have been able to extract from people who you've worked with, or through your years of experience as well, that you can share with the people who are earlier on in the journey.
Yeah, for sure. And I am mindful that when I host an event and have a Lord Sugar or a Gary Vaynerchuk or a Grant Cardone or a Marie Forleo or a Lisa Nichols or whoever it is, I think we've run 17 Expert Empires events now with, headline speakers from all over the world. I'm always mindful that when I have a speaker like that, I'm hoping that they serve as an inspiration and an example of what's possible. But also at the same time, if you say to Lord Sugar, like, tell me what you're doing now in your business because I want to copy it, it's probably not going to be good advice, because, he's a billionaire, I think. And he's got loads of companies and loads of employees, and so it's probably not relevant to a small business that's maybe doing a couple of $100,000 a year, or a property investor that's maybe got like 5 or 10 units. Like what Lord Sugar does and what you do are very different right now. So hopefully it's inspiring, and hopefully it serves as an example of what's possible. But the reason why, again, on my podcast, I'll interview a vast array of people. Some maybe that have gone from like brand new startup business to six-figure income within like 12 months. I'm like, for somebody who's a startup, I think that information is more valuable, dare I say, than what Lord Sugar's going to share with you. Even though you might be more inclined to listen to someone like Lord Sugar that's a billionaire, it's probably more important, more valuable at the stage of the journey you're in to listen to somebody that's been there recently and achieved what you want to achieve. So it's the same at my events. I'm like, I'll have headline speakers. I'm literally just in the process of signing headline speakers for my next event. I'm really excited about the two speakers we've got. And I think they've got a lot of value to add to the audience, and hopefully they're inspiring, but probably not going to teach you, here's exactly what you need to do next. But I've got other speakers that will do that, that will teach, right, okay, in the last 12 months, I've managed to raise, £500,000 in investor finance. Great. Like, that's relevant if you're starting on your property journey and trying to raise investment, right? But, hearing from somebody that's, built a 1,000 unit portfolio, that's inspiring, but it's probably not relevant. So I like to mix it up a bit so there's something for everyone on my podcast and at my event.
Yeah, I completely agree. You've got to have someone who's relatable as well.
Yeah.
Someone who's inspiring you.
You want both though, don't you?
Yeah, you do.
I still will, I don't really read, but I listen to a lot of audio books, podcasts. I'm still listening to audiobooks and podcasts from people that have got much, much bigger business empires than me, because I want to learn from them. But I'm also having like coaching. So I have a coach. I literally today had my monthly coaching call with him. And I'm like, that person is much more close to where I am and where I want to go. I'm in masterminds and part of communities where I go, like, there's people that have got businesses similar size to mine, some that have got slightly bigger. Like, I learn from them. We can collaborate, we can partner, we can JV together. And then I'll learn from people at a distance that have built huge companies. So I think it's about having that kind of mixture, which is healthy, I think.
Yeah, and taking what you can, what's implementable from each person or each community, each speaker or each book, something that you can implement today, right? Because there's no point in just storing all this information for the future. That's where it gets too crazy. But actually having these key ideas that you can then go out and implement.
That's where the structure comes in, Michelle. So where the structure comes in is you've got all the ideas, you're collecting all this information. How do we then bridge the gap from information to implementation? How do we make sure that the 101 ideas that you learned in the last month, or thoughts you had, or strategies you learned, how can we make sure that you pick the ones that are most relevant for your business and you actually get them executed? And that's the structure piece I spoke about earlier, having the vision, strategic planning, and then also looking at the tactics and formulating a detailed plan of action. That structure that we teach is what will help you move from information to implementation.
Brilliant. And I was going to say, I'd love to ask you about your early days with Tony Robbins, because I heard that you managed to go to an event when you were 12 years old. And I wasn't quite that young, but I was 23, so 20 years ago now. And I got into the careering side of things and went to many of his events in America and in London. And that has completely shaped who I am, my outlook on life, my sense of what's possible, and also, like you say, the structure of how to organize life, I guess. So how do you think that those early days are still influencing you today?
Yeah. By the way, how did you hear about Tony Robbins in your early 20s? How did that come about?
Yeah, someone gave me a book at the time. I was kind of searching for something. I didn't even know what I was looking for, but something different and something to make sense of the world. And I read it. I thought that was it. I went to the first seminar and that was it. I went to many after that. And in fact, I took my stepson just 2 years ago. So he was 14 when he went. And it was great to be able to give that gift to him. It's life-changing, right?
Yeah, for sure. My experience was not dissimilar. My mum, back in the 90s, was working in a corporate role. She was HR director and then became operations director of a PLC. And somebody gave her a book. and she put it on the shelf and didn't read it. And then for some reason, something was going on in her life, and she decided to pick up the book and read it. And the timing was good, and she ended up going to Unleash the Power Within in the early 90s, and then went like all in on her personal development, on her journey. Signed up for what was then called Mastery University. I don't know if it still is.
Yeah, I did that one. Yeah.
Yeah, so which is like, many courses all over the world. And what was cool was back then they had a kids camp that ran alongside the Mastery University program. So the first kind of exposure I had to any of this was my mum was going to Hawaii for 2 weeks for these kind of mastery programs, and she invited me to go along. She went, "Look, I'm going to Hawaii for 2 weeks. Do you want to come?" And the alternative was to stay at home and go to school because it was in term time. So off we went to Hawaii, and I had a great time. It was great because what they did with the kids camp, and I was only 12 at the time, was they combined like separate sessions for the kids with some like limited access to the main seminar room. So I got a bit of a taste for it, but not like full immersion at that age, which was perfect actually. So and then throughout my teens, traveled all over the world, Australia, the Far East, all over Europe, all over the States. First of all, like in my early teens, going through like the kids camps, and then as I got older, going to the Unleash the Power Within event and Mastery University trainings. Ended up, as you said, Michelle, working as like one of the volunteers, one of the crew at the events. Actually got to the point where they even paid to fly me all over the world and put me in hotels, which was really cool. When I was like 18, 19, which, is pretty amazing. And it was kind of like the best training I could have possibly got for what I do now. So, I still say, look, if you want to learn how to run seminars and events, Tony Robbins, best in the world. And I learned very close quarters and intensely what it takes to run world-class events. So, yeah, that was extremely valuable. And funnily enough, now it's kind of come full circle. So my son, Zach, who's 16, just this summer went to, they have an event once a year called the Global Youth Leaders Summit in San Diego. So I think it's for 14 to 16-year-olds. And so Zach applied and got accepted to that, and he went and spent 5 days, I think, in San Diego, which was, it wasn't what I went to because obviously I was younger than that, and it's not like going to an Unleash the Power Within event, but it's like a 5-day kind of Tony Robbins personal development experience for 14, 16-year-olds all on. I mean, it must be complete chaos because they're all on a university campus for 5 days. But he had an amazing experience. So, if you've got, I guess this is not, by the way, I have no incentive or anything to plug this, but if you've got a 14, 15, 16-year-old and you want to give them an amazing kind of experience of personal development and self-improvement, I'd recommend you check out the Global Youth Leaders Summit because Zach loved it. And my youngest, who's 12, when he's 14, he'll definitely be applying to go. He's really excited about it.
Yeah, amazing. And of course, it's going to be a very different world that they're growing up in. Having that skill set, the confidence to go out there and
look. The fact is, we're all going to get in business, in property investing, in life. We're all going to get knockbacks. We're going to get bumps in the road. We're going to have problems, challenges, issues that show up for us. And the question is like, how do you handle it? And I do believe what I always say, like the greatest skill you can master in business and in life is the ability to manage your mental and emotional state. Everything else is secondary. The greatest skill you can manage that you can master in business and in life is your ability to manage your mental and emotional state. Everything else is secondary. And for me, that is like, in a nutshell, what I learned from 12 years of age, all through my teens and early 20s, when I was part of that kind of Tony Robbins environment and community. And it set me up now that, look, on my journey in business and in life, I've had loads of setbacks, loads of problems. I've had loads of failure. I've had some success, but I've always had the ability to manage, regulate my emotions, my feelings, my thoughts which has enabled me to be resourceful and then find solutions. So I think that's, for me, like that's why that piece is so important.
Can you give us an example of something, a roadblock, something's come up, and how you would deal with it today based on everything that you know?
Yeah, like I've had so many. Probably the one that comes top of mind, March 2020, Boris Johnson appeared on our TV screens and said, like, we're going into lockdown, you can't leave your house. Bear in mind, my core businesses are live events businesses. So no one being able to leave their house is a big problem when you run the live events business model. And I had 3 days later, I had an event with over 500 people booked to attend that had paid for tickets. So this is a big problem. I've got people asking for refunds. I've got like all sort. My team are under massive pressure. They're getting phone calls and emails, and people are being really unhelpful and unpleasant. It was absolute chaos. And so, and in that moment, in that time, I was like, for me, those experiences, like, there's nothing I could do about it, right? Nothing any of us could do about it. It was, just unfortunate, right? And I had to, first of all, I had to regulate my emotions and my thoughts and my feelings, because I was getting attacked left, right, and centre, like publicly on social media. People going like, "This is absolutely," some people going, "You should be running the event. We paid for it." I'm going, "Well, I'm not allowed to." Some people going, "Well, in that case, you should refund all our money." I'm going, like, I've paid for the venue, I've paid for the speakers, I've paid for the aid, I've like all of this outgoing, and like I'm not in a position to be able to refund hundreds of thousands of pounds back out. So like, I had to get creative, find solutions, and I think I did a fairly good job of it. And I think that all came from the ability to regulate the emotion and the feeling. Like it's really easy when things are going well to be positive and resourceful and happy. And when you're getting absolute pelters left, right, and centre, it's really hard in that. And so for me, it's not about how you operate when it's going well, it's about how do you operate under pressure. And so, I defaulted to all of my experience and training and background. And actually what I did, which I've talked about this a lot since, what I did was for 24 hours, I did nothing. And I'm getting like absolute, like my team are going, we've got to respond, we've got to do something. I'm getting people on social media, I'm getting messages, I'm getting loads of hate. And for 24 hours, I did nothing. Because I went, anything I do now as a knee jerk is going to be from like negative emotion or stress. Or I went, I just got to regulate myself right now. And so I came home and I spent a day at home, and I went, right, let's just get into the zone of how do we resolve this? How do we create a win-win? How do we use this to our advantage? How do we serve our clients? How do I look after my team? How do I do all of that? But I could only do that because I stepped away to reflect. And I came up with a solution that I thought was a good one, that protected my business, that looked after our clients. And we somehow, with like 3 days notice, we managed to run the event online. We didn't have any equipment to run a virtual event, none. So me and my team managed to cobble together like a load of laptops in the office and kind of like made it work using certain platforms. So we still delivered the event with the speakers that we promoted, but it wasn't live, even though that's what people have paid for. So I said, look, we're still going to run the event. We're going to do it online, so you've still got it. I'm also going to let you carry your ticket over to the next one. So you still get the event that you paid for as well, in addition, for no extra charge. And as a thank you for your understanding, your patience, I know this has been a tough time, I'll also upgrade your ticket for free. So if you bought a VIP ticket, you'll get an elite ticket. If you bought an elite ticket, you get an Access All Areas ticket as a thank you for your patience, for your understanding. And out of like 500 plus people, by the way, the day where it all went crazy, I had over 100 like phone calls, emails into the office, comments on social media, posts on social media. It was over 100 people out of 500 were livid. And in the end, we had 5 that we refunded. And I'm like, you know what? I'll take that. I could stomach and afford that. And I'm like, but I couldn't afford to deal with 500. So, I guess the lesson for me was sometimes doing nothing and taking time to reflect and getting yourself in the right mental and emotional state is actually better, and then taking decisive action than rushing and doubling down on making another mistake. So that was my lesson, and that's how I dealt with it.
Loved it. Cool. Okay. Is there anything that you're seeing, like a pattern you're just spotting right now with what's going on with the change in AI and the world? What are people missing?
Very broad question. I mean, I could be here for hours on this alone.
Good.
I think a couple of things. You asked something earlier, I don't think I answered it, and it was like, what do I see that like the people at the absolute top of the game are doing? And this is the case in any area. Like, it could be business, it could be property, it could be podcasting, it could be sports, it could be anywhere. People at the top of the game are obsessed. They're obsessed. Like, we're here on your podcast, right? Who would you have down as like the number one podcaster in the world?
Tim Ferriss is my favourite.
Okay. You think about people like Stephen Bartlett, who we've had speak at our event. You think about people like Joe Rogan, we haven't had speak at our event. Like, they're obsessed with their podcast. You think about like some of the top sports people on the planet, they're obsessed with being the best. You think about, people that have built the biggest property portfolio or that have built the most successful businesses that make the biggest difference. They're obsessed. And I think you've got to be absolutely obsessed if you're going to get true mastery of anything. So that'd be my first thing. Second thing, I think you mentioned AI, and of course we could talk about that all day, and loads of other kind of little specific things that we could do to improve our business. I think the biggest mistake I think a lot of people make in their business is they get obsessed over what I call tactics. They get obsessed with using certain technology or software. They get obsessed with using social media or TikTok or Instagram or LinkedIn or whatever. They get obsessed with that, or they get obsessed with like starting a podcast. Like, they get into tactics without first, I'm not saying that you shouldn't get obsessed with a podcast or anything else, without first working out what's the vision for the business, what's the strategy, how you're going to get there, and then what tactics are going to best serve you. Because for some people that are listening to this podcast, the best thing you could possibly do is get obsessed about starting a podcast. For some of you, that'd be a complete waste of time. For some of you, the thing you need to get obsessed about is raising finance, because that's the one thing that if you do that will help you succeed in your property business. Or it might be that you've got plenty of finance. The thing you need to get obsessed with is finding deals. Or it might be that you've got plenty of deals and the thing you need to get obsessed with is something else, finding tenants. So I think it's about working out, first of all, what the vision is. So I talk a lot about, Michelle, I spoke about this at the summit, about the structure I've created for success in any business. And I think it has to start with the vision. What's the clear definition of success long-term in your business? Then what's the strategy to get you there? In other words, what do you need to prioritize right now and in the next year? And then tactics, like what are the granular details? What are the things that you need to do to get there, to fulfill on the strategic priorities? So yeah, for me, it's about having that structure in place, and the lack of structure creates chaos. Having the structure gives you a much easier life. It means that you can have the time and the money you want from your business.
Great. Okay, that leads us to the last question. People who are listening, they're all going to be at different stages. If there's one key action that they can take today to move closer to their goal, what would it be?
If there was one key action, I mean, it's hard to answer when you've got people that are different industries, different businesses, different stages of growth. So this is not what you're going to expect. The one key action that anyone can do is think of a person that will add most value to your business and reach out to them. So that might be a potential client that you're following up with. There's like there's a sale to be closed. It might be an investor that's gone a bit quiet. It might be somebody that you can reach out to for advice. Like, connect with people. I always say the more you connect, the more you collect. And I think a lot of people now are hiding behind AI, hiding behind email, hiding behind software and automation. And actually, like, what was true 100 years ago and was true 15 years ago and is still true today and will be true in 20 years is like connecting with people, human to human contact is still going to be where all the money's made. Now, can you use AI and software and technology and automation to be more efficient and more effective? Of course you can. But bottom line, I don't think anything's ever going to replace the human-to-human interaction, which people still crave, and that's why people come to events like the event we met at, Michelle, and they come to my events because people still crave that human-to-human interaction.
Brilliant. Well, Nick, you did say we could talk about all these subjects all day long, but let's wrap it up there. So, for people who do want to then implement what they know and take the next steps, can you talk to us about the template for our Key Club listeners and how we can help them?
Yeah, for sure. So when we met at the summit, I for the people in the audience, I gave away access to a fill in the blanks template that I've created. So if what I've shared in this brief episode resonates, like you go, yeah, I feel like I do want more structure in my business. I feel like I want to get clear on my vision, my strategic plan for the next 3 and the next 12 months. And I feel like I need that in my business to move forward or on my property journey to move forward. Then I've created a little fill in the blanks template for you to work through our kind of strategic planning process. So you can get it for free. All you need to do is go to my website, which is expertempires.com/key club. So if you go to expertempires.com/key club, then you'll be able to get access to the fill in the blanks template. It will help. There's a little bit of video training in there as well from me. And it will help you go through the process of creating a strategic plan for your business, so that ultimately you can have the business and the life that you want.
Brilliant. I will add the links to the show notes. So, Nick, thank you so much for your time and your sharing all your expertise and your stories. It's been really good today. So, thank you so much, and we look forward to seeing what's next for you and how you evolve with all the changes that are happening at the moment. We'll be watching what you're up to. So, thank you again.
Thanks, Michelle. Thanks for having me on.